How are you all? I hope you're all keeping well. It's a beautiful Sunday here today. I think it's fucking Sunday anyway on the west coast of Ireland, and the chat lines are open. And as he puts on the spectacles of occasional knowledge, this means you can partake in the discussion. I hope everyone is well. I am feeling great. I had a fantastic night's sleep last night. What else? Just enjoying the general absurdity of the world and using it as fodder for satire, laughs, as shown us here. Who cares? A joke. And don't take anything too seriously, because if you did, you'd end up bonkers. You would end up bonkers. Yeah, I made it live. Nice one, Woody. Yeah. Apparently, I got a shout out recently on the Joe Rogan show by some Hollywood actor I never heard of. That was nice. Well, I just because I didn't hear of him, I don't think he's not famous or anything. It's just I don't pay attention to anything. But that was nice to get a shout out from someone in Hollywood who praising my occult work. I'm an achiever. That's what I am. Hollywood spooks mention my name. Yeah. Hola. Familia from Arizona. Thank you. It's very nice. It's very sweet of you. I'm looking wise. Thank you. Thank you, Brendan. Northumberland. Would you go on Joe Rogan if I asked? Well, he'd never ask me. You have to be really famous to go on Joe Rogan, so I'd never be asked. Yeah, I'd definitely go on. I'm doing. But I don't know. But there's no way he'd ever ask me ever. If I was to have a dream broadcast job, I would love his job. I'd love a job like that kind of thing. That would really suit my temperament. Kentucky, blue moon of Kentucky, keep on achieving Hollywood style. Yeah, they're all like when they're all having their Illuminati parties, they're all thinking about me. Hey, Forza Italia. New York, you're going nuts. Great to see you. Well, thank you, Rennie. Where in New York are you? Liverpool? Alabama. I loved Alabama when I spent a summer working there. Absolutely loved it. Met some really great people, and I love the Deep South. What do you do for a living, champ? I used to work at markets, but the markets are all closed now because of the lockdown. So I try and make bits and pieces here and there. Atlanta, Georgia, very nice place. Syracuse, New York. I told you there last week I had a strange experience. Hello, it's Iron Horse from Spain. That's a great song by Motorhead. Oxford. Pittsburgh. I was talking to somebody recently about Pittsburgh. We were talking about cities that were former industrial powerhouses that managed to survive quite well. Pittsburgh was one. Peterborough, I was there, I did a talk there. I really enjoyed exploring Peterborough Cathedral. Edinburgh, always lots of people from Scotland. Another Alabama, Dublin, oh yeah. Colorado, snowing in Colorado. Oh, yeah, at a high elevation. What time is it there, Thomas? I don't know. It's nearly 4 o'clock. 4 p.m. Yeah, just went 4 p.m. Steel is coming back. Coolock, not far from Ballymun, very close. Practically a homie. Hastings, that's where Alistair Crowley spent his final days. Hailing Island, Thor's Hammer. Tala, I have loads of relatives out and friends out in Tala. Talact, as H.P. Lovecraft called it. There's Anto in Kildare. Yeah, 5 p.m. in Connect. It's not. Oh, it is fucking going on 5. What am I saying? I'm wrong. Yeah, I was looking at how many minutes I was online. Not the fucking. Sorry, I was looking at. I'm not an achiever. I was looking at. Oops. I was looking at I've been 400 online, and I thought that was the time. It's nearly 5 o'clock. Thank you for correcting me, Anto. From Germany without the social distancing, that thing was unbelievable. The sombrero. Someone should decorate them, have a model train going around on them, or a race car, like those are the race car sets, slot car sets. I thought you were in Portugal, Shona. The Spanish are kicking back in Madrid and spreading. Well done, that's good, because they had a terrible lockdown in Spain. You always put a feather in my cap. I don't know what that means, but I think it's a compliment. Created some chaos magic on the way. Good for you. Well, we create chaos magic all the time. All the time. Yeah, time is mad these days. Oh, you're in Scotland now. Okay, okay. How's the singing gone? Oh, that's good. Everything's open San Sebastian. It's very nice. Yep. My next class, I'm going to be doing a thing on the tarot and its use in magic for magical Egypt and people in a couple of weeks. They've been very kindly allowing me to use their server again. So that'll be great fun. Thanks to the Corona College. Yeah, they helped me during these crazy times. I'm glad. Thank you, Paolo. I'm glad to hear that. I do these offals also for me, because I just I'll read the news sometimes, I just like want to go nuts, and then I have to come on here and talk about it, because it helps me too as well. Helps me too. The smiley face killers. Yeah, I don't know an awful lot about that. Have you a recommended reading order for your books? Well, it depends on what you're interested in. If you're interested in, well, Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psyche Park would be the first book to read, but then you could read all the others after that. My favourite book of mine that I wrote was The Druid Code. Of all the books I've written, the one I'm most proud of is The Druid Code. And if anyone ever says to me, which of your books should I read, I always say, well, read that, because that's basically, the book that was written more about from a point of love than a point of information and knowledge. It was more of a work of love. Theo from Manchester. Thank you, Theo in Manchester. Tell me, do you walk like that? Do you have that Manx walk? Oh, right, you bastard. Thank you, Claire. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the Druid Code. Unchained Hearts, and thank you, Veronica. I don't know what that means, but thank you. Is Trinity College magical? Does it have a look at Hogwarts? Trinity, the architecture in Trinity College Noel is amazing, stunning, and it is a friendly campus for visitors to go to. The only thing is that it's going into the really cool parts now. It's all you have to pay an admission fee, but you can see the Book of Kells, which I'm not a big thing. I love you too, Veronica, and the thing with the Book of Kells, though, is that, yeah, it's amazing and everything, but you can go into Trinity College campus on a summer's evening or a spring evening and just walk around, and it's lovely just to see the old architecture and everything, and they don't charge you or anything, and they don't hassle you, and I don't even bother going into any of the inside parts. I'm just happy on the outside parts, just enjoying the architecture. It's quite small and compact, Trinity College. It's because it's in the city centre, but it's definitely worth seeing. Thank you, Lord, my lordship, my lord, in Spain. Someone asked about the Smiths, but the question went by. Oh, okay. Lord Brat Sinclair. Oh, little New Yorker, Samantha. How are you, Samantha? Have I ever wanted to make, that's a great question, Julian. I would love and have even written scripts for low budget, not even big budget, Hollywood films, horror films that I would love to either do as a team. In fact, I was working with a guy, and it never went anywhere, who was involved in the TV business here in Ireland on a script for a possible TV show about occult things around the time of Jack the Ripper, and it and I wanted, and but yeah, like I would love to get involved in making and writing and consulting and doing all that stuff on TV, horror and anything like that. I would absolutely love it. That would be a dream come true, to work with those kinds of people making a film. I would love that. I was talking to the lady recently who made, who was the occultic. Her name was, I think, Barbara or Samantha. She was the occult consultant on the color out of space. She did a great job, and I was like thinking, God, that would be my dream job, to do something like that. And I was like, that's she did a great job too. I thought the way she showed the kid was using Simon's Necronomicon, and because it's kind of, teenage kids would be into the Simon Necronomicon because it's so edgy. It's got an edgy cover and has that kind of like a heavy metal vibe about it. I'm not going to put a script out unless I have somebody to actually work with. I'm not going to put all that work into something. Also, ideas get stolen constantly. I'd have to sit down with someone with a contract and start working. I would never throw something out there. I don't want to do that. It'll be robbed and stolen. But I mean, I've never had. I've never. I don't. I wouldn't even know where to start to get involved with Hollywood or even film writers and stuff like that. But I would absolutely love it. Absolutely, it doesn't work, Sean. They just change the names. They don't. The copyright doesn't matter. They'll just change the concept and the names. It's impossible to. It would be impossible to prove if they did that. Your take on them orbs and shiny UFOs being residual technology? I don't know, but Harold, I'd be more inclined to think that UFOs are created as they're some kind of entity. That's my attitude. Because the only one UFO I ever saw, it felt alive. Norway, yay! Oh, they only felt alive. They felt like animals. I was looking at a life form. That's how I felt about it. Oh, good, good. That's good, Joshua. God, that was a hell of a ban you had on Facebook. And Lord of the Throne of the Lightbringer has been fantastic. There's been loads of stuff I may be catching up on. Your pep talk is really good. I see you need into the archives. Thank you. It's amazing to find things working out the way you desired. Oh yeah, that's the way you do it. Loving the Chronicles. Would you love to stick around? But I've got to go for the sun. Okay, go off. Halifax, Nova Scotia. Okay. Have a good day. Birmingham, UK, home of heavy metal, and also Duran Duran. Quite a lot of bands came out of Midlands in England. Good bands. Didn't Sensational Act? No, they were Glasgow. I've been using this new shampoo and it makes my hair flat. Like it looks like it's flat. I saw a UFO and loads of others on ayahuasca. I felt alive for sure. That's interesting. I saw on mushrooms grey aliens plenty of times, loads of times. A giant octopus movie. No. Yeah, Cabinet on a Car like Gary. I definitely would be into that. No, I would do a psychological horror film. Hey, Bridget. Hope you're keeping well. Thank you. Who do I reckon will win Euro 2020? You mean football? Is it even going to happen? It won't be Ireland, that's for sure. I miss your green specs. Yeah, I can't find them. They're. I got the granny ones on today. I can't find them. They're in the house somewhere. Yeah. A lot of people have experience with entities, Shona. You've got camera gear. You could maybe start making shorts with local actors. I was thinking about that, Masters of Ecstasy, but it's just like it's organisation. I have a friend down in Cork who can arrange all this stuff, and it was just a matter of like making it happen. We've spoken about it so much, but he knows people down there. He's a former filmmaker himself, and he knows people down there in the theatre scene and very good connections. The problem was, even to do it on on a small scale that I would want to do it, it would Jerry Cthulhu. It would have to cost money because you still have to pay these people. You can't expect them to work for free. So it's not like, and then the rental of all the proper equipment. I don't have good enough equipment for something like that. Also, I'm not that good at editing. I'm okay at editing documentaries, but I wouldn't be that good to do editing. It's a huge job. So we kind of worked out we'd need a lot of money to do it. Like when I say a lot of money, like 20K. And we were actually in Youghal in County Cork. And if there's ever a Lovecraftian town in Ireland, that was it. But like I was even the place I was thinking like you could write a great horror story, but it was just like as soon as we started talking about thinking about the money and everything, it became tricky. It became tricky, unfortunately. There's Spencer. How are you doing? But yeah, that would be my dream. Oh yeah, I heard about Peter Eden. That was good. Yeah, he was right about that. There's lots. I'm sure lots of like mainstream people have the same doubts about these or the same feelings we do about COVID and everything. It's just that they don't want to say it because they'll appear on the papers by the propagandist and will have them on the paper saying, such and such is a nutcase conspiracy theorist. I have quite famous people who are fans of my work over the years and have contacted me, but they don't go public about it. But they will say hello and stuff like that, and so it does. I've got like some quite famous. I wouldn't say them friends, but like some I've made quite famous associates through this, like which I won't name. But it's like, yeah, that there's lots of people out there who are famous and well-to-do and quite popular, and they have the same feelings about things we do, but they won't go public about it. I won't. No, comic book. That's too much work. Unless someone else would do it. No, I like film. I like cinema. Yeah, I saw that one. The Mask Wearers. She also handled it badly. She was too aggressive. But yeah, I agree. It's a disgusting video. But there we are. I mean, just what was done to people in the old days for being witches. We know the new witch finders are the ones wearing the mask, saying keep social distance. Billy the Kid. You mean like the cowboy fella? The more someone has to lose, the more they need to speak out. Unfortunately, Yvonne, it's if that was, I wish that was true. But like these people have family, like these, even though they're celebrities and stuff, they're still like us. They have children and wives and husbands, and they don't want the, that their family members seeing their dad or their mother or their sister trashed in the newspapers. That's why it doesn't happen. Would I do a radio drama? No, I'd film. It'd have to be film. I'd have to. I've only got my heart set on one thing, film. That's it. By the way, those of you who are Patreon contributor supporters, I uploaded a new film just for you guys yesterday on Patreon. That's about the Drombeg Stone Circle in West Cork. And that's one of the freebies you get if you're on Patreon. Every so often, I'll throw people on Patreon freebies that no one off freebies, but thank you gifts that no one else gets. And that was the one I uploaded yesterday. Do you have a pet project for a movie? I have, yeah, absolutely. I have it all in my head, not written down. Well, I have the working notes, but absolutely I do. Absolutely. What if you're a federal employee? Is it a good idea to stay in? Yeah, no, don't walk away from your job. You can work for the government and or the army or anything, and just to create a sense of dissociation away from it and just live your everyday life as you can. There's no problem with that. No problem. The face mask, yeah, new rosary, or yeah, exactly, or the Islamic, this thing, the burqa, the headdress. That's also same thing, same idea. What is an NPC? A non-player character in both desktop board games, with miniatures, and also computer board games. There are characters written into the script or into the game that are not active players in the actual game itself, and they're called non-playing characters, and they can be problematic in playing a board game. Say you're playing a board game with miniatures, and you have to say get between you and say a monster. Well, they could be in the way, the non-playing characters, and you have to, instead of using your one move to get around them to attack the monster, or they might be in the way of you running away from the monster. You have to use two moves, and therefore you're in danger. So they just exist, but they don't contribute, and they often get in the way. You might, and they can also be in some games. A wizard can spellbind them and use them to attack you because they have no minds of their own. And that vernacular, the non-playing character NPC, made its way from board gaming, fantasy board gaming, and computer gaming, and became a meme. It became a part of how we think about certain peoples in society. NPCs are people in society who just are, they're vessels. They're not they're not necessarily normies. Like a normie is someone we could have all been normies at one time, or we can be normies, or we evolve out of it. NPCs, they're empty vessels. There's nothing in there, nothing, and they're just filled with whatever information they're given. They think about nothing, and the world is full of millions of them, hundreds of millions, and that's where that came from. NPC came from board games and computer games, non-playing character. A lot of academics are NPCs. It has nothing to do with education or anything like that. And like a lot of academics are NPCs. And you can also be a normie, and you can be a normie who can go almost like malignant to become an NPC, especially if you stay in college and you take some ridiculous degree that narrows down your field into an unskilled worker, or you can only do one thing, what you learned in the degree. Like Professor Neil Ferguson is a classic example of an NPC. Pavements are 2 meters. They're actually painting up the city centres of Ireland now. So when we get back to the new normal, there'll be little walkways for you to stay on your side. I'm sure it's happening in other countries too. They'll use this now to pedestrianise, which is not a bad thing. A lot of cities around the place. Have you ever gotten? Yeah, NPCs are very easily possessed, Jason. They're very easily taken over, and they'll be. If you look at the smear campaigns, all those head cases ran against me, they were surrounded by NPCs, drug addicts. Well, they chose them carefully. NPCs, drug addicts, and other dregs that they could pour their lies and bullshit into and use them as attack dogs. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. But that was a classic example of infected dregs infecting NPCs. You get that a lot on smear campaigns. Have you noticed that smear campaigns don't really happen so much on the internet and the alt scene anymore? It's because of people like me and others who are creating a more positive mindset within alt media. I've noticed that a lot too. There's a lot more positivity and a lot more decency, and people, and also this lockdown has made people say, if they switch on a video on YouTube written by some snotty-nosed lunatic attacking a member in alt media, or what they do is they go, I don't want to be part of that anymore. And it's like they've left these things alone to metastasize. And I've noticed that as a very, very cool thing, is that a lot of people now, Ian is doing grand. I was talking to him the other day, well, not recently, but yeah, the last time I was talking to him, he was in good form and looking back to, he's just making the most of life and what he can do, and he's ready to come back and do his thing. Brendan McCarthy, no, I never heard of him. I'm a master. No, I'm a master's in politics. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying everyone. Professor Neil Ferguson's first date with an AAA battery. That's probably what keeps him alone. One off brass eye. Well, if you made a brass eye about this, it wouldn't be comedy because it's so true. Movies like A Dark Song, yeah, I love that. But not only just movies like that. Like, I want to. I'd love to see some proper occultic period pieces that look and feel good, but not done by what's your man Tim. What's your man who makes all those awful films with Johnny Depp? Tim Burton. That's his name. That the films are all terrible. Have an energy that he thinks his films have, but really do have, dealing with, yeah, Tim Burton, dealing with these topics set in, say, late Victorian, Edwardian period, I think, or even right to World War II, 1930s, I think would look and be incredible. A film set in the 90s, or set in the early 90s chaos magic scene and hacking scene in New York would be really cool. That would be really cool. Because the hacking scene and the chaos scene in New York in late 80s, early 90s were very, very close. Yeah, well, they do. It's happened loads of times. I'm one of the, and I am a very nice person, but there's people have mental illness and frustrations, and they realize they've made big mistakes in their lives when they tried to gaslight me and things like this, and I found out about it, and they rather than accept or be honest with themselves that they got caught trying to screw me over, that they'll attack me. It happens in life. It can happen to anyone. People who make bad decisions in life trying to justify them. Yeah, Hereditary is a good film, and it doesn't leave you right. Not so much Edgar Allan Poe yet, like, but I'd love to do something in England, especially England or something like that, like, or even Edinburgh. Edinburgh has a great vibe about it for that kind of thing. You could tie in so many things, like a kind of a Sherlock Holmes type character, in who deals in the occult in and around like London, Edinburgh, Dublin at the turn of the century, the 19th, 20th century. I don't know if I'm Ireland's most relevant magician, but thank you anyway. Good day, fellow insurgents. I like that. I like when you call. I like that term, consciousness insurgents. Is that Blackpool, England? I was there recently. The weather with a friend. She was collecting me up in the. I was making a film up in the Lake District in England, and the weather, we had to cancel, and the film crew went home early, and I graciously got a lift back to Liverpool Airport from her, and we stopped in Blackpool for lunch on the way down. Interesting old seaside town. Has a real atmosphere about it. I was surprised how big it was too. Narcissists are the same as psychopaths? No, they're completely different. Everyone is narcissistic to some degree. All of us, every one of us is narcissistic to some degree. It's when narcissism becomes like weaponized, it becomes pathological, that it becomes like a malignant pathological narcissism. A psychopath is like a different species living on this earth. They're not narcissists. They have narcissistic traits, and they are narcissistic, but they're a different being living in the human body. Green Diesel. I'm an achiever, Apollonian Slumber. I love your name, your Longhorn name, Apollonian Slumber. Cool. Everything she posts is fear porn. Who is that? Sociopaths are still not the worst. Like, well, actually, they can be more like a psychopath is actually better in some ways. You're right, in that they won't attack you on purpose. Like a psychopath has no interest in you; they'll leave you alone. It's only if you have something they want. So, like, yeah, in many ways, a malignant narcissist is much worse than a psychopath because they'll actually go after you. Where a psychopath is just business. If they've nothing, if they won't harm you in any way, if they have nothing, if you have nothing they want, it's just like a shark, or they're more like an animal or something. Like a shark won't eat you if they're not hungry. Professional empaths creep me out. My friend Thomas, who got, oh yeah, that's happened to me, got their degree and went from cool person to empty shell. I know of quite a few people who've been destroyed by higher education, destroyed by it. In every way they were destroyed by it. Interesting people who had a lot going for them, destroyed by wanting to get that master's degree or PhD at any cost, and eventually just became empty shells that were filled by government dogma and orthodoxy. Babysitting my mum's ferrets. Ferrets are lovely animals. A ferret is a domesticated polecat, isn't it? Yeah, me too. I want to start hitting the megalithic sites in America as well. I haven't. I was in America last year to go see the the uh, Necronomicon in Providence, and my friends were with me. They didn't really have an interest in the megaliths, but they're kind of getting into it now. The next time I go to America, I'll definitely want to hit the megalithic trail. A professional empath, that's like someone who's also constantly going on showing about how I'm wonderful, I feel for everyone, I'm an empath. If you feel for everyone then you're empathic. You don't have to keep telling everyone about it. And that's what I mean by a professional empath. They're like professional wonderful people, and it's all fake and phony. Yeah, I've actually looked for megalithic sites around here. There's one just about 500 meters there. I should do a film on it, some photographs. A seriously impressive ring fort, and I've tried looking at. Hi from Crete, and I've tried looking at the around it with the satellite. There's the Google satellite. Nothing yet, but I did find that the remains of another ring circular enclosure here, about a half a mile up here in another field, a big one. But I did find out that it had already been found on old maps of Ireland. Your sense of humor is awesome. Thank you. I'm an achiever. Yeah, well, the megalithic tourist thing, there was always problems that beset them. Not personality problems and things like that, but people got sick. And I was supposed to do one with Reese coming up in, with Maria Wheatley. Twice things went wrong through no fault of our own. It's like anytime I try to set megalithic tours up, they become cursed. So I think what has worked for me is people have contacted me and say, "Can you come along with my wife and I? We're seeing this country or that country, or you can come along with me and my brother. We want to see the megaliths in Ireland." And I found rather than advertising tours and doing it that way, like renting myself out as a lone gunman, as a character, as people like having me along for the laugh and as well for the crack. So I'm much happier with that. So if you ever want anywhere in the world to hire me as your shotgun exploring ancient sites, I'm your man. And I'm not a high maintenance or a greedy bitch either. I don't know the name of the actor. Someone had mentioned in the comments here on another video. I don't know the name of the actor. I don't know the name of him. He was involved. He's a regular on the show, and he's involved in some Netflix series. But don't ask me his name. I just have a head like a sieve. Branson, Missouri. No, I've never had this. I haven't done any research on that since I had that weird experience telling me to go. Well, the name mentioned, and no, I haven't. I haven't. I'm going to make loads of documentaries when I can get out. That's the problem. I don't have Thomas the Megalithic Red Fight. Yeah, I should have a picture of myself on a on a megalith like this, on a dolmen like this, like this, and like on the hi, I'm Thomas. Try me. The phone number. Megalithic rent boy. Will I shoot another photo shoot with Terry? I keep meaning to do that. The lockdown was stopped. I was actually on my way up there until when the lockdown happened, Max. Yeah, I, I've got to see her anyway, just to hang out, and Ruth up there, my other friend. But yeah, it's in the works as soon as I can travel more than 5 kilometers. She lives about, I don't know, 50 miles from here. Yeah, megalith, a megalithic pornography calendar, that kind of thing, like on a dolmen slab like this. Oh God. Yeah. Oh please, no, not gonna happen. Another one. Oh, and Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Halifax, England today. Thank you, Seattle. I know loads of people up in that part of America. Miami. Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff in Florida. It's more interesting than it gets credit for. No, I think Graham Hancock is genuine. He doesn't like. Well, he doesn't like me. We had a falling out, but because I said I couldn't stand his when he was doing the jungle juice stuff. When he was doing the jungle juice stuff, too much ayahuasca stuff, too much. I made a video saying what the fuck happened to Graham Hancock, and he did. He was very upset at me for doing that, apparently. But I'm a big fan of Graham Hancock, and he's not doing it for money. He gets paid for his work. Like I want to get paid for my work. There's no harm in that. But no, his work's sincere and it's great. And we need more Graham. If we had a dozen, a half dozen more Graham Hancocks in this world, we'd have a whole different view of history. No, Graham Hancock, always thumbs up for me. Always. Yeah, that Coral Castle thing is fascinating. Like, it's one of those things that, like, could only have happened in America, and by an immigrant. It's the strangest thing. Coral Castle, I think it's near Fort Lauderdale or somewhere like that, isn't it? It's in like central. It's in central Florida, I think. What do you know about Abraxas? Nothing more than anyone else. You live in Wisconsin, don't you, Jason? Yeah. Oh, there's loads of stuff in that part of around the Great Lakes area. There's loads of stuff. A lot of it was built on by cities like Chicago and Milwaukee and Detroit, but there's loads of stuff in that Great Lakes middle North America region around Canada. Lots of it. A Field in England's a fascinating film. I really like that film a lot, and I love the way it was the set design, the way the battle. You don't actually see the battle. You just hear the screaming on the other side of the hedgerows and things like that. I really really like that movie. I don't know why the sign says that. There's an underwater Stonehenge lake in Michigan. There's definitely there's Native American megaliths, but there's also pre-Native American megaliths. The Native Americans weren't the first people to America, like what you call it, the First Nation tribal people. They're not the first. There was another group there before that, and they built a lot of megaliths, and they were probably the same group who built the pyramids in Mexico City and so on. There was a whole other civilization in America before the First Nation people. And then the First Nation people built megaliths too, but there was other ones before that too again. Well, there was no one living in New Zealand until 700 years ago. Like it's only relatively rarely. Even the Polynesian people didn't go to New Zealand until like the 1300s or something. It was empty. Although Polynesian people and Islander peoples have built plenty of megaliths, there's all kind and pre of them, the pre them. There's loads of megaliths in the Pacific South Seas on various islands. Yeah, I will be bringing Alman and the Psyche out, John. The problem is it's very dated now, because a lot of things that I wrote about were leading up to 2012 are no longer relevant or they've happened. So it's like it's literally has to be written as a brand new book. From Beyond, yeah, it's good, but it could have been better. But I still liked it. It could have been better. Uh, Elon Musk is a deep state plant. End of. Catalina Island. Is that the one off the coast of California? Is there a group or website club that maps megalith? Yeah, there's loads of them. If you could just go into type in megalithic maps, and there's a thing called the megalithic portal UK.co.uk, I think it's called. They don't know, and there's other ones like that. They not only do megaliths in Britain and Ireland, but they do megaliths all over the world. Like I even found out about when I was last time I was in Sri Lanka. I found out about the megaliths in Sri Lanka through the megalithic portal. And that's why I'm probably one of the only few people who've gotten video footage of those megaliths. Great to see you live, finally. Thank you, Stephanie. Does anyone ever fully recover from a malignant narc? Yeah, you do, but you have to remember, it's a life experience. The reason why there's a residual pain and hurt is because... I love Alan Moore, but his politics of bollocks. The reason why there's a residual hurt is... you're being taught a lesson to not let those kind of people near you ever again. That's why there's a pain, a hurt. It's not that there's recovery. It's like a scar. If you are, if you're in a war and you got shot or stabbed with a bayonet, you're left with a scar. You've recovered, but you still have the scar and a bullet hole to remind you of what happened. Yeah, so don't think of it as fully recovery. Think of survival. Think of it as survival, but not as more than recovery. Oh, I'd say 80% of the world is normies, and I'd say of those normies, probably 50% of them would be NPCs, maybe more. Yeah, no, I follow Breen Forrester's videos all the time. They're brilliant. Breen Forrester's, I love his updates and his videos. He's doing a tour of Ireland. This is very strange. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It's practically a pointless tour of Ireland. I would say a million years, but at least human civilization at the very, very earliest was around 20,000 years ago. At the minimum. No, there's no escape. You just have to deal with them. Just like you deal with NPCs just in real life, just like you deal with NPCs on board games. You have to suffer, or sometimes you have to get to deal with them. But they're like look, when you play games like war game, you play a fantasy war game, right? And you have to attack, a certain position, right? And there's a mountain in the way, okay? And that mountain uses up certain moves and things like that, and certain dice rolls, right? The same thing with the NPCs. They're like a terrain obstacle in the way of you and your dreams, but they're also things you learn to overcome. Things you learn to overcome. Well, if you ask yourself if you're an NPC, you're probably not, because they have no internal dialogue. Yeah, weird adventures. That's it. Veronica hit the nail right in the head then. We are the adventurers, and they are the things in the way. Yeah, life is just like well, it's like it's a monomyth. It's the hero's journey, and along the way you'll meet heroes, villains, help, lovers, uh, wizards, and gods. But you'll also meet NPCs. That's it. That's just the fact of it, and the fact of the games that I played, both fantasy wargaming and historical wargaming. If you had a villagers or something in it and you had to avoid, accidentally running them over the horses or something like that, it actually made the game more interesting because you would have to think in less in a literal way and more a literal abstractive way and more in a creative way. So think of these things as not as problems but as challenges. Think of them as challenges, not problems. And also they're great for comedy and taking the piss out of. Let me get Grimes is not what's his name's wife. Yeah, the way they named their kid a number, like a serial number. I think it was somebody said recently, it might have been Jason on this here, that there's more humans on the planet than there are souls and or consciousness vessels. No, consciousness forms, and therefore NPCs exist because there's not enough souls or psyches to fill them, to fill all the people that are on this earth. Oh, Standing with Stones, yeah, those films are quite old now. They're about 20 years old now, and they filmed lots of them up the road here. They've actually Standing with Stones has still got the best footage of the megaliths in Sligo. What am I reading these days? I'm not really reading anything heavy at the moment. I have a lot of books to get through, but I just haven't been reading at the moment. But I'll be addressing that soon. Comic reliefs of an insane god, yeah, could be. Well, there's nothing being wrong with being part of the system and being not psychologically involved in it. If you have to pay bills and take care of your kids and stuff like that, there's absolutely nothing wrong. Lincolnshire, how are you, Shelley? There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking care of your family and working a system job. There's nothing wrong with that. When I worked at Goldman Sachs, I was still going to see like alternative bands and everything, and going to all kinds of interesting things, and I was still involved in a lot of the things I'm involved in now. But I just needed the good money that they paid me at the time. So there's no harm in that. There's no harm in it. Your audio is tripping. That sounds like uh, an 80s crush groove thing. Your audio is tripping, man. Yeah, audio's tripping. Gonna get the beats, man. Crush groove, yeah. South Bronx, yeah. What happened to James Swagger? I don't know. I kind of miss him too a lot. Me and James had some fantastic times together, and we had our differences, but we're both Irish. But in general, it was we had some great times together, and the last I heard about him, he just wanted his life back and moved on, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes, it's get in the public eye is not easy. It's not easy. So I mean, my memories of James are 90% happy, and I'll be always grateful for the things he did for me and the opportunities he gave me and the places we went together and stuff like that. So yeah, but I do miss the guy. We did have some great times together. I do miss him. Well, the post office in America, Karen, is notorious for being a horrible place. And even going when I lived in the USA and when I went to the post office, I especially in the urban areas, there were just nothing but temples of misery. even in the suburbs and stuff like that. I remember one time I was in rural Maine or somewhere, and I went into a small post office, and the woman there was lovely and friendly, and the place had a happy atmosphere. So that wasn't yeah, grin on the Aoc. Is there more to this? Well, yeah, but the post office in America is a very unhealthy place. Grin on the Aoc in Donegal is not a fort, for starters. It's much older than they say it is. It's not from the 1100s like they claim. It's not a fort because if an army was to garrison inside that, they would be, it'd be a death sentence. It's not a fort. It's, to me, it's some kind of, I won't say temple, but it's like the Colosseum in Rome on a much smaller scale. And they're not battlements around it; they're terraces. And as as Jack Roberts points out, if you go there and you talk in the normal speaking voice, a person on the other side can hear you, which is about 50 meters away, 100 meters. Well, it's more. I don't know how wide it is, but you wouldn't hear in the normal speaking voice, especially on top of a mountain with the wind blowing. Hi, Tunnel. Love to Molly and the kids. With the wind blowing, you wouldn't hear it. But there's something about that construction of that building that it's some kind of place where the druids or the wise elders sat down and they had counsel. That's what I believe it was, and maybe even rituals. It's definitely pre-Christian because it's a circle. Even the mainstream ones, academics agree that whenever it's a circle, a cashel, it is nearly always pagan. So it's not a fort. It was some kind of meeting place, possibly a temple. And the proof that it's pagan is that it was discovered a few years ago with a drone that the cross quarter sunrise in winter morning shines directly through the door at the small door opening and lights up the interior of the chamber, and that's as pagan as it gets. But it's definitely not a fort, and it's definitely not. It's definitely pre-Christian. It was probably where all the druids from Ireland and Scotland and the north of England and all the islands, all the Scottish islands, probably all met for a council, once every 13 moons or something. Or shamans, whatever they were, whatever they had in pre-Druidic times. John, worst director ever trying to play with. I hate all those American films with us. I hate the way the rift between blacks and whites is always played up in America, because when I lived in the USA, most black and white folks I met got on perfectly fine. I met very little, almost no racism, very little. I mean, when I say race, maybe hatred or dislike. Most black and white folks got on fine. It's the same in Ireland with Northern Ireland with the Catholics and the Protestants. The movies, the directors and the TV producers love to sex up the rift between Irish Catholic and Irish Protestant people, and in reality, most of them get on fine. Stonehenge is in the abandoned FNZ party. Been watching too many biblical channel stuff. Oak Island, yeah, I've often wanted to go there. Yeah, I think so. Something definitely interesting went on the Oak Island. Now, don't ask me what it was. I would be just inclined to think that some kind of civilization arose there by itself, just as much as the Romans got there. But or like the ancient Irish got. Well, we know the ancient Irish definitely got to America. So did the ancient Welsh and the Scots, and we know that, and the Scandinavians. We know that for a fact now. But like a long time back, some Oak Island seemed to develop something. It could have been, a remnant of Atlantis. It isn't. It's in the right place between Ireland and North America. Yeah, I remember when Marlon Brando called that out, but he did it all the wrong way, and he didn't help himself. Nope, racism is not a huge problem. Just like any country you go to the Balkans, Serbs and Croats get on fine for the most part. You go to Sri Lanka, the Senegalese the Tamils get on fine for the most part. You go to the Middle East and you see most of the different people, different tribes get on fine. Africa, it's the media and the so-called, the controlled grid loves divide and conquer, divide and conquer, and then they can say our one world solution is the way to stop all that. South Carolina, I've never been properly. I've been there, but I've never properly explored those states, those mid-Atlantic states, except for like eastern Georgia. The Railway Man was in it. Oh, Damon. Was it called the Railway Man? Or was it called the Signalman? The Signalman. That's one of my favorite TV dramas ever. I can remember watching that as a kid. I must be about 9 or 10, and I left a field in England. Someone asked me about that earlier on. Yeah, I loved it. If you watch the video back later, you'll hear me talking about that. Yeah, I recommend everyone watch The Signalman on old BBC Christmas Ghost Story. It's brilliant, based on a Charles Dickens story, and he's brilliant in it, and so is the other actor's name, I can't remember. But I that left a huge impression on me. Hi, Nicholas, and the Druid Circle. Signalman, yeah, definitely watch it. It's brilliant. And when I watched it as a kid, it left a huge impression on me. I think a lot of the things I became interested in spawned out of watching it as a kid. The tunnel and everything. The swamps of America. Yeah, well, I nearly bought a place. I was renting it for a while in Sayreville, New Jersey, and at the back of it was a waste. There was a river at the back of the place, and then there was a wasteland, like a marsh, and beyond that was the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. And yeah, I used to sit in the backyard and see weird lights and everything moving in the woods or moving across the land, and it was really spooky. But in a kind of way to make me happy. The neighbors weren't happy. How would you reboot the Teletubbies with explosives? What are you get? Where do you get your sources for history? At some point, it comes down to your discernment. Well, that's it. That's where I get it. I look at the mainstream and the alternative, but mostly my thing for history is being at these places and seeing that the story can't be the main like when you the Jersey Devil. Yeah, when you go to like in Sardinia, when you're inside a stone that's been perfectly cut out into a perfect square, and then they tell you it was cave, like as if it was machined with a machine, and in a giant granite boulder, and they say to you that it was done by fellas using picks that were made from deer antlers. And then sometimes I will go along with the what's in the west of Norway. You mean a stone circle there? That's called Domstinana. I did a film of that. It's near the airport in Sola. The Everglades looks beautiful. I'd love to go there. I'd love to I just love to see it. This was the sun going down. Some of Crowley's remains are located in the Pine Barrens. I wonder why that is. I'd love to. Yeah, I want to get definitely the Pineys and the Pine Barrens. I didn't. One of the great regrets that I have of my time living in America is that I didn't buy a good video camera, which I could have afforded and should have. It's just that I didn't, and film everything. And that now I have all those places I visited in America, especially back in the 90s, would have been really cool. And then to eventually like edit them all, digitize them, and edit them all down into YouTube videos. I really regret. That's one of my biggest regrets about my time in America, is I didn't invest in a decent video camera and video everything that I was interested in. Thank you very much. I'm glad. Druid Godmother. I love that name. Professor Cummings. Is that the guy who was doing the running around the lock? He broke the lockdown. Didn't he? Wasn't he against the lockdown though? I don't think he. I think he was. I think he was against the lockdown. No, he wasn't like he wasn't a. He wasn't a vile hypocrite like Ferguson. The scientists wanking on this week about it, discovering a new planet, or at least particles are mostly from. Yeah, that goes on all the time. Yeah, the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. Got to get back there. I like New Jersey too. It's an interesting state. It's amazing to me that the Pine Barrens is between two of the biggest urban areas in the world, Philadelphia and New York, and in the middle of it, one of the biggest. Well, I'd love to make a role playing game. I would, that's something I would love to do. I just don't have any time. There isn't enough of me poured into this. There isn't enough thing. There's never enough of me in this life to do all the things I want to do. So hopefully I'll carry it over to my next life. Magic is science that man doesn't know. True. That's definitely true. I agree with that. A movie about Crowley would be awesome, but I wouldn't do it though. But I would like to see it. If I was making a movie, it'd be about a fictional character. It wouldn't be about. Well, you loosely base it on real people. Love South Park. I'm a huge fan. Have been since it began. South Park took over the brilliant satire that went from The Simpsons when Conan O'Brien left The Simpsons, and all these new woke producers came in. South Park took over that baton. Yeah, I love Philadelphia and I love New York. I love Philadelphia. I don't know as well, but yeah, I mean, that's why I used to be people in New Jersey, and I'd say between the two greatest cities in the world, you should be traveling. You're so spoiled. You're so spoiled. Yeah, Chemical Wedding was very poor. Very poor. You are all slaves of a broken occult mind control. I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave at all. Not at all. I don't think of myself as a slave. And I'm not on my knees, and I don't need to get up off my knees. Yeah, I'm open to anything. Magic is an undiscovered science. The occult is undiscovered knowledge. Yes, scientism and universities are corrupt with neoliberalism, but they go through stages. They can also be corrupted by conservatism as well. And neoliberalism is a kind of a conservatism in the other direction, but it's still conservative. It's orthodoxy. That's the right word I would use. They're possessed by orthodoxy. That's good for you, Veronica. No, you don't have to be on your knees if you don't want to be. What do you make of Edmund Marriage's work, Tom? I don't know. I have never heard of the man. The whole world is a trick. Yeah, but that's what makes it amazing. Yeah, it's orthodoxy more than neoliberalism. They can easily fly in both directions. Just read Mark McDa. Really, you think so? That cunt is an absolute robber. He used my name to rob about a couple of €1,000 off people. His real name is Mark McElroy, and no one should ever support him. He's a thieving criminal on the run, and a lowlife and a piece of shit. And yeah, don't ever. And his book isn't that good anyway. He's a thief, a thieving scumbag robber. That's what he is, a thieving scumbag robber. He's a shoplifter masquerading as someone who pretends to know about the tarot. That's what Mark McElroy, Mark McMark is, a scumbag. A shoplifter. He'd be the kind of guy who picked half-smoked cigarette butts off the ground and finished them while judging everybody else. A fucking arrogant. No, he's from Liverpool. Not Liverpool, he's from Birkenhead. But he's literally on the run now. He's one of these fuckers who starts a serial company starter, which is usually the giveaway of a fucking con man. No, he's from Birkenhead. He's from the Wirral. Mark McElroy is his real name. Yep, used my name to get several thousand pounds off people and then fucked off with the money. McThief. Mark McThief. Abilene, Texas. I was talking to somebody from Abilene. Might have been you the other day. Someone had emailed me or something from Abilene. Well, it might have been you, John. Where does magic come from? Magic comes from the unresolved science of the universe. Kent, England. What did it say? What book would you, on occult books, would you recommend? I'm currently reading Magus by Franz. Well, read my book, Sorcery. Uh, what's my next book about? It's going to be about Lovecraft and his magical life. Everything is magic. Every conscious thought is magic. And that's what Crowley said, and he's true. He's right. Every conscious thought is magic. You brought the magic back. Well, thank you. We always had it. We always had it. Austin Osman Spare, other than reading that, a superb biography of him by, I can't remember his name. That's it. A fascinating character and an incredible artist. You know, Austin Osman Spare was very, very famous in his time as a painter. Yeah, Lovecraft didn't like Crowley, and he thought well, on the surface he called them like stage magicians who were pretending to have magic and stuff like that. But at the same time too, he was smart enough to realize they had the charisma enough to make great characters in the stories. Oh, I'm a big fan of Aleister Crowley. Big fan. I don't have any problem agreeing with him. I wouldn't have lived his lifestyle. I don't like, but if a lot of that stuff was just to trap people, to trap the unclean. Like but no, I would never. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Aleister Crowley's work. Thank you, Bren. You've done a great service. I'm doing it because it's for me too, and I don't think it was a service. I'm glad to talk to everybody and everybody to talk back to me. Thanks, Carl. It's not my artwork. The one that did, but yeah, I love sharing any cool artwork. Did you see the one that the octopus and it's got the tentacle coming out of space? I absolutely love that one. What was Ireland the origin of civilization? No. Ireland was probably once part of Atlantis, whatever Atlantis was. The land all around Western Europe and out into the Atlantic as far as the Dogger Bank. And the Dogger Bank on the east, on the side of England, which is Doggerland, and also the Porcupine Bank out in the Atlantic, where Ireland's territories exist to these days. That all the way down to the Mediterranean, southern Spain, Portugal, and up to the southern part of Scandinavia, perhaps Malta, was Atlantis. And the Irish Origins of Civilization, that book written by your man Mulcahy, is a lot of bollocks. He basically it's a Christian manifesto. And what happened was the story is that when the Roman Empire, when the Christian world fell, that all these Irish monks took all the Christian, all the work of the great work of civilization and brought it to Ireland and Scotland for safekeeping. And then when the Catholic Church repaired itself, they brought it back to Europe. That's not what happened at all. They brought religion. That's what they brought. They brought the Talmud. They brought the Gospels. They brought the missals. They only brought religion and stored it in Ireland. They did not restore mathematics, algebra, philosophy, engineering, architecture. They didn't bring that. That went east to Persia. What happened was when the Christians destroyed the classical world, the the last of the symposiums of Greece, that there's even a very sad story about the last symposium in Athens, as they're taking up the final books and documents they could rescue from the pagan world and bring them to Persia, as the Christian iconoclasts outside are smashing all the classical artworks with hammers, because they're according to the Talmud, which they worshipped before it became the Bible, they were demons, they were graven images, and they went to Persia, where they were basically given to the Persians. Then the Persians became Muslim, and then the so-called the Islamic great Islamic period of knowledge and science. That's not Islamic at all. That came from the Greeks, the last of the great Greek pagan philosophers, and Roman, who went and a place like Anatolia and that part of the world, and who escaped the Abrahamic invasion and went into Persia. And then the Muslims later on discovered it, coupled with what they had raided from India, and that was where the great Islamic science came from. But it wasn't. It was pagan Europe, Greek, and this kind of thing. So the Irish did not save civilization. Who saved civilization was two things. The Greeks who escaped what was left, or buried the ancient statues under the ground like they did in Rome to protect them from the iconoclasts. They had escaped to the east. Then the Islamic world spread into Europe and into the Moorish world. That fell again to the Christian world. That knowledge was then recovered by the European Christian world, came back into Italy at Rome and in northern Italy, and that became the Renaissance. And the Renaissance is how civilization was really saved. But initially, it was those old philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, and architects who packed up the scrolls and books and bags and made their way to Persia. And that's what really saved civilization. And we owe those people a tremendous debt. And also we owe a debt to the Persians. The Persians played a huge part in it as well, as did like the people in the Anatolians in Greece and stuff like that. They kept it going too. The Anatolians in Turkey, sorry. So, but the Irish didn't save civilization. They saved, unfortunately, Christianity. That's the unfortunate thing. So that's the answer to that question. And they weren't Irish, they were monks, and many of them weren't even Irish anyway. They were Roman citizens, and a lot of them were English, Welsh, and Swiss, whatever what became Switzerland, Helveticans, and things like that. So the Irish didn't. That's a total myth that the Irish saved civilization. Unfortunately, they saved the Bible. They saved the Bible. That's what they saved. Everyone's gone. Where's everyone gone? Oh, here we go. Why is Persia so persecuted today? The same reason Anatolia is persecuted today. It's one of the and the same reason Ireland and Scotland and the Celtic world and the Nordic world was persecuted in the same kind of way. Certain places produce certain magic and certain magical ideas and cultures, and that's why they attack them. No, our mathematics has nothing to do with the megalithic civilization. Those people that talk about pi and stuff being in Stonehenge and stuff, that's all Freemasonic nonsense. They didn't use mathematics. They didn't use Grecian mathematics. It's in the ancient European megaliths. That was pre-Grecian. They didn't use pi. They had a mathematical system all of their own. We'll never know what it is. This whole thing in the megalithic yard and all, that's all nonsense. That's all made up Freemasonic crap for those fellas who dress up as Anglican bishops and, wear tiaras. British Israelites, too. They love all that stuff, the megalithic yard and the pi being in the ancient science. A pyramid at Southport? I don't know about that one. I visit you in the Appalachian USA? I would love to go there. That Tertarian mud flood thing is such bullshit. Total bullshit. Sacred geometry is just geometry. That's all that is. I don't even like the term sacred geometry. But what sacred geometry is. It's just geometry that acknowledges that there's a magical language to nature. That's all that is. What's the Vatican's role in all this? The Vatican is the Roman Empire trying to survive, but not the pagan Roman Empire, the Roman Empire of Constantine. That's what it is. I'd be a guest of honor in Turkey. Oh, I'd love that. I've loads of fans in Turkey. I've got a friend in Turkey at the moment. She's translating she's doing an audio book of the first chapter of the Druid Code, which is supposed to be up soon. The Irish will survive the present onslaught. Everyone will survive. We always do. Humans are amazing. You have to remember that. It doesn't matter what culture we come from, what religion took us over. Your humans are incredible. We have incredible fortitude and ability to survive. Incredible hardships. Look how many people have been in wars. The stories I hear of people who lived in the most awful wars, and their families were killed, and all kind. They were in prisoner camps, and terrible things happen. And then they get after the wars. They start businesses that, and create millions of jobs. And there's so many stories like that. Human beings who went through the most horrible thing. Roslin is a horrible place. Roslin Chapel, it happens. Yeah, I mean the Irish are one of those kinds of people. I mean, all around my house here, there's thousands of bodies from the famine. People just dropped dead, and just dropped dead in the fields, and we're still here. We're happy, and you're watching me all over the world, and we're getting on. People. Humans, and it's not just an Irish thing, humans are amazing. Amazing. They're always telling us we're a pollutant on the planet and we're no good and we're useless and stuff like that. And humans are a curse and stuff. We're not. We're not. The ones who can think, do things and try to make their lives and the world a better place, even if it's just for their own kids, that we're amazing. We're incredible. We don't give ourselves enough credit. Even just like World War II, the amount of people who lost everything in World War II, everything, right? Including their families and their children. And then they went to England or America or France or Australia, whatever. And then they started a business that ended up employing thousands of people. And there's loads and loads and it doesn't matter what side they were in the war. They were people who lost everything, and there's loads and loads and loads of stories of people who did things like that, and they never wanted any praise in their lives, or have a poor me, my life has been terrible. They just pulled up their bootstraps and survived and prospered. So always remember the people who survived much worse than we've ever gone through. And if they can survive that, and we can't survive this, then we're pathetic. Yeah, the whole humans as a curse thing, that is definitely aliens. The Bosnian pyramids, I have a contact out there, and that was one of the places I was planning to go. But airfares between Ireland and Bosnia are for some reason very expensive. So I was looking for a cheaper way to do it, maybe going via Croatia and taking a bus or a train, or Sarajevo in Serbia and a bus and a train. But not Sarajevo, Belgrade. But the thing was, flights between Ireland and Sarajevo, they were as expensive as flights to the US, where flights to Croatia or Serbia were like regular normal flight prices. So I do want to go and have a look at what's going on at that. I used to be very skeptical about the Bosnian pyramid, and I still don't believe it's a pyramid. But I still, the mountain is a mountain. But I do believe that there's something incredible there that needs to be looked at without the pyramid eyes. Norwegian used to be Norwegian, but did Norwegian go out of business though? I've flown Norwegian a few times, a good few times. Do you have any debunk videos about orbs that I know, dirty lands? Well, the thing is, Philip, with orbs, that Most of them are dust. Most of them are water vapor, but some of them are not. It's just a weird thing. It's just a weird thing. There's definitely some orbs that are not dust or vapor. Mel Gibson's Apocalypto. I see it, Bridget. Take care. Next time you come to Ireland or whatever, I'll see it. Apocalypto, I've never had a chance to sit down and watch it properly. The last two times I sat down to watch it, something happened. Someone called me, or a relative was sick or something like that. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch. Have I ever had an out of body experience? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I used to try to do it, but it never really happened. I know I've never had one. I'd like to have one. No, some of these orbs are real. Some of them are real. I can't explain it. Especially when you videotape them moving through a solid object, which I did once. Yeah, RT is poison. That's poison and incompetence and a horror show and everything else. Take care, Druid Circle. Have a nice day in America. You're probably going into lunchtime there or something. It's getting near dinner time here. I'll stay for another 15 minutes or so. Romanian Sphinx. Yeah, I saw that. It's fascinating. I think it's a natural thing, though. There's nothing wrong with the Kabbalah. Nothing at all. Kabbalah was really started in Europe anyway. Well, Eurasia. What's that, my glasses? Oh, piece of the price tag thing was sticking in there. I used to see orbs in my grandparents' house. Yeah, I've seen them do things like that. I've actually seen the odd one move through solid objects. Yeah, it's weird. Why? It's weird how the moon. Why does the moon affect temperature? I've never understood that. 3 a.m. Apollonian slumber. Where are you, Apollonian slumber? You must be east somewhere, India or somewhere. The Assyrian tree of life. There's tree of life in every culture. It's a very common thing. Australia. Okay. Has there only been? Yeah, there's only been ever one. But don't pay that kind of money for them. Don't pay big bucks for them. Oh yeah, that's Philip. That's St. Patrick's Chapel in Glastonbury. They have there's a gigantic mural at the end of the nave, and it has a painting of Mary Magdalene, and the sins coming out of her body. It's and all over the walls are paint pictures of St. Patrick's mission to Ireland. Even though it's in England, St. Patrick is a big saint in the Church of England, the Anglican Church. They also venerate St. Patrick as a major saint. But well, he was English anyway, Scott Welsh, anything. But is St. Patrick's Chapel in Avebury, sorry, in Glastonbury. Yeah, you just see the hatred of women in that one image. Morris 108, no idea. Yeah, Iceland, I do want to go there, but there's not an awful lot to see other than nature, historic wise, and it's quite cheap to get there from Ireland. It's not expensive at all, and there's loads of regular. There's like 3, 4, or 5 flights a day from Dublin or something like that. Something stupid, but it's a Hyundai the car, but it's I have it's expensive when you get there, so even though it's cheap to fly. Yeah, I'm a big steer in the car, young. Even though it's flight cheap to fly there from Ireland, it's a very expensive country. Like even to like have buy sandwiches in the shops for your lunch and stuff like that. Trump derangement syndrome is real because the media has made it real. No other reason. It's an invention of the media, just like the fears of coronavirus being a great pandemic. That the media has invented that. Yeah, old mines and things like that. There's a there's a brilliant mining channel, exploring all the abandoned mines channel on YouTube. I forget the name. It's got a name like that, exploring all the abandoned mines or something like that. And he's filmed some creepy things in those mines, and it's not even a skeptic. It's not even a paranormal or Fortean channel. It's about old mines. So he goes in there day, night, all kinds of times, and he's filmed some very creepy things inside those mines, especially sounds or things moving by themselves, like big things, like big metal things moving by themselves. Yeah, I saw that about the Czech Republic making the authentic absinthe. The thing is that I've had very strong absinthe, and from there, and it doesn't agree with my system. It's a delicious drink. The absolute flavor of absinthe is gorgeous, but I don't I'm not good with alcohol unless it's beer. I'm not it doesn't it A strong liquor of any kind, and even though I know absinthe is different, of any kind, it doesn't sit well in my system. It doesn't sit well in my system. Hey Cheryl, missed the start again. Yeah, you can watch it back later. But yeah, but I mean, I, I might try it when it comes out, but it'll just be one glass and then back to the hotel room, or it'll probably be banned in Ireland anyway. Thomas Sheridan is sound, John Madigan. Hey, John. Sound, I started, yeah, started. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absent. Yeah, it's made from. Yeah, you can actually make it yourself at home. That wormwood grows everywhere. It grows everywhere. You can grow. My dad is a long term socialist, but that was his generation. How can he could have grown up in great poverty as a child and see socialism as the way that got the family out of poverty. How should you change him? Don't try to change him. Doesn't mean you have to be one either. It shouldn't be changing people. Our job is not to go around and actively change someone. Don't know anything about Jordowski or whatever his name is. Do you think any higher education? You think if they'll change the pandemic? No, it won't. They'll be worse than ever. Worse than well, you won't get the universities and colleges are looking at massive financial problems. So I think the days of like these woke courses like gender studies and all that, I think a lot of that will end. I think only people that want to go to college will be either very rich people or someone determined to get a degree they know they're going to get a job in. There's far too many people going to university and college now. Just about every teenager in Ireland goes to university now. It's ridiculous, and or it's like none of them. And that's why there's a shortage. That's why we have to import immigrants from Eastern Europe. That's why we have to import people from guys from Poland and women from Czech Republic. They're the only ones who can do like regular skills. The Irish young people today all want to be doctors or lawyers or uh, whatever bullshit, and so like so many of the people, that's why we have to we need lots of immigrants in Ireland who can actually do things that we're losing. It's too low for them, but it's also yeah, I mean there's loads of Eastern Europe people who live around here, and they're all great, and they're very happy to do jobs that Irish people won't do. It's ridiculous, and they're often good paying jobs. They're good paying jobs. But no, they're not lawyers, or they're not doctors, or they're not some kind of banking bullshit thing. So they think, oh, it's not a real job. It's a very real job. It's realer than your job. Oh no, well, maybe you're a doctor. Yeah, college is the new high school. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous how many people. Well, it's because it's a business. It's a business. That's what it is. They want the money. They want young people and their parents' money, and that's why everyone goes to university and college now. Flying ointments. I don't know what that is. Oh, is that like the psychedelic things that the witches used to use to make them travel? That they would, that's what that that's I've heard a story, but I've never really confirmed it. That they used to witches used German witches used to put psychedelic substances on their dildos, and that's where the witch flying on the broom came from. There you go. And carpenters make good money in this. Yeah, that's what that is. Stacey, I don't know if it's completely true or not, or if it's an urban myth. But it could have been just something the church made up to oppress women, that they were putting hallucinogenics on their dildos and stuff. I don't know. You see, a lot of that stuff came from the witch trials and the Lutherans used to tell them to make up the stupidest things. Yeah, it was usually ergot. They could also ergot. A lot of the prior to a lot of the witch persecution times, ergot used to happen when you had a damp summer, and the fungus would grow on the ergot, and then that autumn when people will be making bread from the ergot that the fungus was on the rye it only grows on rye. It only grows on rye. And that's why they reckon the countries where rye was consumed, Germany, Holland, Scandinavia, Poland, that's why the Bohemia, the Czech Republic, that's where they had, and Scotland, that's where they had the most persecutions of witches, because they were all having hallucinations. Where countries where they ate mostly wheat or barley, oats, Ireland, England, not England, parts of southern England, Ireland, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, they didn't have a rice smile. Interesting. They didn't have the same problem with the ergot, because the ergot fungus didn't grow on that. But it's also the Catholic Protestant thing too. Catholics are more tolerant of witchcraft. That's why you have a situation where there was almost no persecutions of witches in Ireland, and there was horrific, some of the worst persecution of witches in Scotland. And even though the Irish and the Scottish are the same race of people with very similar cultures, the difference is Scotland is Protestant and Ireland is Catholic. So it's, you know. Call of Cthulhu is, yeah, I played Call of Cthulhu. It's a good game. There's good and some good expansion packs and stuff in it as well. There's lots of good. Arkham Horror is a good one as well. There's lots of good games. Cheshire, I like Cheshire. I like the Peak District. Yeah, the Schumann Resonance. Yeah, there's definitely some kind of force in the earth. So yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. Some kind of Gaia's consciousness or something. The Mary Michael line. Yeah, yeah, I've heard all about that. Been all explored them all around. Brought to you by Droppy, Bulgaria's favorite laxative. Keep your anus sloppy with ploppy or droppy. Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, Metallica song. Annapolis, Maryland. That's right next to Washington D.C., isn't it? Are witches real? Of course they are. I know loads of witches, loads of them. A lot of women I know in my daily life are witches. My friends, a lot of my female friends are witches. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Or they delve. Practice dowsing. No, I have with Maria Wheatley. She taught me how to douse. Well, showed me how to douse, and it's definitely real. I prefer the term witch to warlock. I think magician is the one I like is magician, male or female, or sorcerer. But witch is okay. Chivalry, yeah, that's a really good game. Saturn going direct in September. I don't know anything about astrology, but Saturn is the planet representing the god uh, Kronos, who is the god of new cycles and new beginnings. That's why he's associated with time and planting crops and things like that. No, her dad isn't Dennis Wheatley. That's not Maria's not related to Dennis Wheatley, and crop cycles and things like that, and uh, so Saturn coming, anything to do with Saturn in September could be very, very, very important. I spoke with James Swaggart earlier on. If you watch this video back later, you'll hear me talking about him. Saturn could be very important in terms of a new cycle beginning. I would say positive. I think by September, everyone have woken up or wised up to this Corona-19 bullshit, and by the time it comes along, September would be the right time for it to happen and things to come back to what they should be again. So anything to do with Saturn is very important in terms of the out with the old, in with the new. And remember, what they're calling things now, what things are now, the COVID time, that will be the old. You see, they don't let them put spells into you about new normals. That will be the old in September. Think. So that will be out. So anything to do with Saturn is to do with regurgitation and renewal, destroying of the old, decay, bringing up the new life. And that's why it's associated with the god Cronus, and that's why eating the baby is not about baby sacrifice. It represents that even the child who's born, the new baby will die, will eventually be consumed by time. And that's what the symbolism of Kronos eating the baby is. It's not about child sacrifice. Have to go see your daughter, Carol. All the best. I'll be going soon anyway. Yeah, 2 physical fights. Nothing wrong with a man having a punch up now and again. Nothing wrong with that. What's my druidic forecast? Well, I'm not a druid, so I don't know. My forecast for 2021, I think people like us are going to have a fantastic time. All the morons are all going to be sucked into the corona new normal bullshit, and the rest of us who can see right through it will have an amazing. We will begin. It will be the beginning of the new renaissance. Good question there about what do you think SJWs have done to the occult scene? Nothing. They haven't damaged it because they have no magic and they have no power, so they can't damage it. The thing is that we're a tribe of achievers, yeah, and there's nothing they can do about it. So all the lesbians in Wicca, that's just because they're just getting. It's a pickup thing. It's a singles bar. That's all that is. And I'm sure there's plenty of Wiccan witches who do have real power too. And but most of them are the self-conscious like feminist Wiccans. That's just all bullshit. They have no power or magic. The SJWs definitely have no power or magic involved in the occult. They haven't damaged the occult. If anything, the occult has damaged them. All you have to do is look at their lives and how miserable they are. And Wicca is the Apple iPhone of magic. There's a lot of truth to that. Although I know Wiccan people are good, they're all right as well. So I'm not going to put everyone in the same box. But the SJW thing in magic is gone. You see, you have to be careful. Just because the SJW stuff in magic is bullshit, doesn't make the right wing stuff or the conservative or the alt right stuff in magic good. You be very careful with this stuff. Your magic should be non-political. Now, my magic is, but things will happen like, if I, like, when back in the 80s, my workings were very much in defiance of conservatism. The kind of Ronald Reagan, George Bush, right up until Bush Jr., that kind of conservatism. At the same time, I didn't like the Clintons. So I would have been closer to the left, although not in my magic working, but in my cultural, social way of thinking. Nowadays, it's the left and the liberals who are insane and are in danger. And therefore, we go after them when they intrude upon magic and so on, and things like that. But just because The right wing was the bad guy in the 80s and 90s and up to the 2000s. Doesn't mean that the left wing, we should all become left wing in our magical workings. And the same thing with the SJWs and the lefties today. Just because that's the bad oppressive force in culture today doesn't mean we should all become alt-right conservatives. You should never bring magic into, you should never bring magic into politics and politics into magic. Keep at the fulcrum. I'm exactly right. Understand, acknowledge, be aware, but that doesn't mean you have to run for office or go at work, be involved in voting and things like that. How does self-hexing work? Loads of ways. Misery, self-defeat, a sense of self-defeat. Did I have a mullet in the 80s? I didn't have a mullet, but I had that one where, if you see the old children's zoo videos of me playing, I had the one where the side of the head was shaved, and then this was kind of over, grew down like that. So it was more, but it was longer down here, but it wasn't a mullet. It was more like, I don't know what, I'm trying to think. It was like, yeah, it was it was the 80s style, but it was closer to the kind of goth new romantic thing. Oh, absolutely, Keck Magic got Trump elected, and no, it didn't get Trump elected. It destroyed Hillary Clinton. Different thing. The Waco siege was a big wake up call. I can remember that very well. Janet Reno and Clinton doing, that was a mass murder created by the government in the U.S. and it was an absolute disgrace. And but that was the end. Then you realize then that bureaucracy in all its form is the enemy. He wasn't close with Frank Bruno. Jimmy Savile used to bring celebrities around with him to sort of like boost his own cachet. And Frank Bruno was a big famous boxer at the time, and he asked him to go to Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital to meet with the patients. Now, there was more than just Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, in Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital. There was all kinds of mentally ill patients there. And Frank Bruno, probably being just a nice guy, remember he had no idea what Savile was up to. He didn't work in the BBC. He was a professional boxer. And he asked him, would you come along to help raise some money for the clinic? And he went along, and that's all. That was probably the only time that Frank Bruno ever met Jimmy Savile, and also probably definitely the only. He probably didn't even know who Peter Sutcliffe was. Savile just probably introduced him as Peter Sutcliffe. This is Peter, and I don't. People have been unfair. You can't blame 6'6" Sputnik, kinda, yeah, but not as spiky. And I used to have mohawks before that and everything, but you can't blame Frank Bruno for a picture that was just a photograph of him, Savile, and Sutcliffe. It comes across as a decent guy, and it was just unfortunate, and he probably didn't. He was clueless. He was just used. He wasn't. Yeah, David Yal's book, Delivers from Evil, is a fantastic read about the period. The first, when conspiracy was mainstream. Well, Norman Wisdom was a big-time Freemason, apparently. Although you can't deny that the guy was really talented, but there's nothing weird about him. I don't think anything weird get out about him. The way I switch lanes is don't. The way I switch lanes is don't. I'm off now. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Ave Lucifer, long live the horn gods. Feck them if they can't take a joke. Love you all. Peace out.